Coming up, we have a modern-day David and Goliath with the MAN TGA and the Foden Alpha Series. And Eve ties it up in telly in an outside broadcast van.
Now, earlier in the series, we looked at the production of bodies, such as curtain siders, fridges and tankers. But what happens if the needs of your job are a lot more specialised? Well, in tonight's show, we're visiting a company that custom builds super trucks that cost twice as much as a hand-built supercar.
The core business has always been fire. We have a general element as well, which is any vehicle that we can build which is adaptable for our skills and our facilities.
Buying a fire engine is not like buying any other truck because each individual vehicle is specifically designed to meet the needs of the customer.
We receive a specification from the customer and that's then interpreted into the Saxon way of doing things. Basically we build on 3 or 4 chassis from a Volvo, a Mercedes, a Scania or a Dennis. From the design side it takes about anything from a week if it's a pretty standard vehicle, anything up to 6 or 7 weeks if it's a special type.
Now, after the designs have been finalised, work starts on the aluminium frames for the water tender. Now, would you believe, not more than 20 years ago, these were made out of wood.
All the frames are aluminium. The steel parts of the cabs, which are on this side, they're all made out of steel.
After the aluminium frames have been welded, they come over into this section here, where the panels are then fitted to them.
Normally from a skeleton frame, they're finished off probably take about 160 hours to 200 hours, depending on whether they're riveted or whether they're stuck. Starting from this section here, if they're riveted, you'll end up with floors going in and it will move up the line and have bulkhead panels, header panels put on, it will move up again and have shutters and probably striping.
Let's not forget that each of these vehicles are virtually custom made, therefore all the components in here have to be hand built in this fabrication shop.
On the customer base, Saxon has really majored on repeat orders. And we cemented relationships, long-term relationships with many of the UK principal brigades.
But they don't make everything from scratch. We start off with a chassis and day cab to which everything else is bolted to. Now, one of the almost obvious things to fit to a fire engine is a water tank. This one behind me holds 400 gallons and weighs just over 2 tonnes. Now, a water tank's not much good without the fire people. So what happens is next is, as I said to you earlier, it's a day cab. So what they do now is fit the frame to the back of the day cab to accommodate the fire crew. Saxon typically use high horsepower 14 or 15 tonne chassis from suppliers such as MAN, Volvo and Mercedes. We use these 15 tonners not for the gross vehicle weight but for the horsepower, as the vehicles run usually between 11 and 12 tonnes. That's it for part 1, but join me later in the show when we'll see how the body gets attached to this.
Hiya, Eve here. Now, over the last few weeks on trucks, we've looked at some fantastic trucks and vans. But today we're going to look at the creme de la creme. I'm going to show you an insight into the world of television. It's a very, very glamorous industry. And to go with the glamorous lifestyle, you need a glamorous truck. Take a look at this one. Well, joining me now is Rick, and he's an engineer for regional programming. Lovely to meet you.
Hello.
Now, Rick, tell us about this fantastic van. What make is it?
It's a Volkswagen and it's an LT45.
Which means nothing to me, but obviously it's very good for this job.
Yes, it's fine for this job.
Yeah,
exactly what we
serves
need.
its purpose.
Yeah.
Is it diesel or is it petrol?
It's diesel.
Right, so that's better because obviously, what's the fuel consumption like? Because you're out and about all the time. Is it good?
It's not bad. We have a diesel generator on the back which we run off the main fuel supply as well,
Right.
So
It's not too
200
bad.
miles, about 50 quid.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Not too
Says
bad.
who knows nothing at all about diesel or petrol or whether it's any good. Now, tell me, please. Who's modified the van?
Granada Television actually modified the van themselves. We've got a team of engineers who kit the equipment out and design it all and run it up and test it all.
Fantastic.
So it's a Granada in-house job.
Well, I can see lots of control panels here which look very, very interesting. I mean, although I work in the business, I don't know things like this. I really don't. So talk us through what all this does and, you know, why it works and what it works for. And
Well, basically, we're just here to make sure we can get television pictures out from the region back to the studio where we can use it in our nightly news programme.
Right.
So basically, we've got VT machines and facilities to plug in cameras and send pictures back to wherever's needed.
So what's that there? Is it a CB?
Yeah, we have a CB radio here, so we can talk to the presenter and the camera crews out on the link itself.
Right.
Also, we have talkback that comes in on the roof. That comes from the main gallery in the studio, so the presenter can hear the main director and listen to instructions from the gallery and what they want.
So what's that big erection thing on the top of the van?
That's our transmitter, a microwave transmitter, and we also have some receive aerials up there as well for our talkback.
Sounds very interesting. Let's get in the van and see how it all works, shall we?
Okay then.
Okay, well, it's a bit warmer in here.
Now it's got the heater going.
Oh, lovely. So go on, tell us all about it. Show us how it all works then.
Well, basically we've got a nice transmitter here. That's our main output. So that's how we send our signals back to the studio in Manchester.
And what voltage is that?
That's 10 watts. It runs on 10 watt power, 10 watt on high, 1 watt on low power.
A bit like a microwave then.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Cook and defrost.
Have you not got a microwave in here?
No.
That. Okay. Hello? Hello? No, Rick's gone. He's gone for tea bags. No, he said it. No, he didn't tell me any buttons to press. He said I'm not to press any buttons. No. Sorry, I can't hear you. Breaking up. I think I'm in trouble. I'm going to have to do a runner. So, Eve Threlkeld, till next time. See you soon. Bye.
Now, throughout this series of trucks, we have some pretty tough road tests. Perhaps not quite as tough as this has been through. But in tonight's show, we've got a real David and Goliath rematch. Now, representing David, we have Foden. And representing Goliath, we've got MAN. So stay with us to see if history is going to repeat itself.
The Foden Alpha series are a family of rigid and tractors and were launched earlier on last year. They feature the latest generation Caterpillar and Cummins Euro 3 engines ranging from 185 horsepower to 450 horsepower. Gearboxes are sourced from ZF and Eaton and they are available in 3 cab types. MAN called the TGA the Technology Generation. It was launched at the CV show last year. The range features 4 sleeper cabs and 1 day cab and engines from 310 horsepower to 510 horsepower. They also feature a choice of 12-speed Tipmatic automatic gearbox or a 16-speed ZF with comfort shift.
So we all know that in the story, David slayed Goliath. Now, by all accounts, it was a small stone, but it'd take a serious boulder to knock this one over. Underneath the floor is an MAN 460 engine, again plenty of horsepower, and certainly this is a 6x2 vehicle we've got here. So it's the sort of vehicle, sort of engine that would match each other on this. Gearbox is a ZF 16-speed 221, same gearbox we've got in the Foden. The big and major differences here, MAN have got what they call comfort shift. And basically that means that I've got a little button at the side here. And what I do is I press that in. The computer then takes all control of the engine and the revs, and I just, with the button still in, move the gear. And then it takes over, and then the revs take on as well. A lot of people might say, well, why don't they just make it an automatic? First of all, ZF have got their own fully automatic, the Acertronic, and a lot of drivers do like the idea of still shifting through, but without all the hassle. So it's a little bit of a compromise between the two. I certainly like it.
MAN have been in the UK for over 30 years and have their main manufacturing facilities in Munich, Germany. The UK company has its headquarters in Swindon and they manufacture trucks from 7.5 tonnes to 44 tonnes.
One thing also worth mentioning is the engine brake. I do like it. I've got it on automatic at the moment, so every time I put my foot on the brake, then the engine brake system comes in. Again, reducing costs, operating costs for the operator, reducing wear on the discs and the hubs. So again, helping to keep the overall cost down. So well done on that side. These cabs that we're getting, the more modern cabs, do tend to be a bit more plasticky. So that's either a good thing or a bad thing. Personally, I think it's a bad thing. Again, gripe-wise, I must admit, it's 460 horsepower. We're fully loaded up to 44 tonnes, but it could be better performance. It doesn't pull away too well on the 7th, certainly. Got her down now at around about the 50 kph, and we're down to about 1200 RPM, and she struggles to pull away on that, and I have to drop her down, and I'm in low gear as well.
The MAN TGA 460 XXL features the 12.8 litre 6-cylinder turbocharged intercooled MAN diesel engine. It's 460 brake horsepower at 1900 RPM with a torque of 1584 pounds-foot torque between 900 and 1300 RPM. Also has a ZF 16S221 16-speed gearbox with comfort shift.
Well, that's it for part 1. But join me later in the show where we'll see if David can slay this Goliath.
Coming up in part 2, our fire engine takes shape and Brian shows you his huge van top tip. Foden are one of the oldest truck manufacturers left in the UK. They are now part of the Packard Group in Seattle, and recently they have moved their manufacturing facilities from Sandbach in Cheshire to Daft Trucks, its sister company in Leyland.
So here we are inside the Foden Alpha series. First thing you notice, engine hump and wrap-round dash. Life in cabs is split between those manufacturers that like a walk-through cab and those manufacturers that have an engine hump. Underneath the engine hump is a lovely Cummins 420 11 litre ISM engine. I do like them. Euro 3 latest vehicle, latest engine, really nice piece of kit. Visibility is again adequate. The front windscreen again isn't too deep, a la TGA and Magnums and things like that. But as I said, this is really a small cab vehicle, therefore it's doing a different job. Interior wise, it's also got nice sleeper bunk there, very, very good indeed, very comfortable as well, and very high up. I like lots of storage space. This has got lots of storage space. Got external storage space, but also inside it's quite high, and they've used that height very well, putting lots and lots of storage space in. Excellent for the sort of job you want. What about the gripes? Well, first of all, I don't like 2nd and 6th gear on this vehicle. And when I switch down, coming in from 7th to get into 6th, reverse is right by the side of it, and it is quite frightening. I haven't gone into reverse, but as a driver, you can tell when you've missed your gear and you could possibly be going that way. So I don't like that. The indent spring is either not strong enough, or certainly can you move it, for goodness sake, it is a pain. It's not the quietest vehicle I've been in. On high revs, maximum revs, when we're getting up to the sort of 16, 18, 20, 16 and 1800 RPM, it does tend to, you can feel it and you can hear it inside the cab. So a little bit of more sound insulation, but all in all, not a bad little vehicle.
The Foden Alpha A36M features a Cummins 10.8 litre 6-cylinder turbocharged intercooled diesel engine with a horsepower of 420 brake horsepower at 1900 RPM. The torque is 1482 pounds-foot at 1200 RPM. They also have the ZF 16-speed 16S221 gearbox.
Unfortunately for our David, history hasn't repeated itself, but there again, we probably never expected it to do anyway. The Foden's competitors are things like the DAF 85 series and the Volvo FMs, whereas the MANs, things like the DAF 95 and also the Scania R cabs. That said, maybe it'd have been more of a match if we got the Foden Big Carb XL. Welcome back. Earlier in the show you saw the beginnings of making a fire engine. Now we're going to see the body attached to the chassis.
It's worth noting at this stage that fire engines are unusual as they are exempt from national type approval regulations that govern the manufacturing of vehicles in the UK.
We actually produced a reinforced 40-foot box trailer so that a company could land and take off a light aircraft. But believe you me, Tim, we had to write the biggest product disclaimer on liability that we've ever had.
But before they do that, they make sure the water pumps are working correctly. Now checking the pump involves making sure you've got the correct pressures and volume, and this machine checks the flow.
The majority of the company's business is home-based. Having said that, we have serviced Hong Kong with major vehicles throughout the years.
It certainly beats your garden hoses. I could do with one of these at home.
Everyone at Saxon has worked very hard over the last 2 years, transforming the company from a traditional craft production, cottage-based industry. We've been introducing a lot of modern manufacturing techniques and processes.
So once all the water pumps have been checked out and clear, they fit the body panels and then they come and trim out the cab.
We accept that the long-term growth of the company does depend on expanding into other specialist vehicles, and we're well on the way to achieving that at the moment.
Now, as I mentioned earlier in the programme, the day cab now is converted to accommodate the crew. Now the rear of the cab is converted to accommodate 4 firefighters, and the racks then have been specially developed to take the breathing apparatus.
Typically the normal makeup of the crew is the driver and the officer in charge in the front, and up to 4 firefighters in the rear. But there are changes in the industry, and we're now being faced with accommodating up to 10 people in the cab. The vehicle cost can range from a small conversion on a Transit or a Land Rover type vehicle, which at the low end could be about £30,000, and it rises through the range to the water tender type vehicles, which is the bread and butter machine of the UK fire services, which have a price range of between £130,000 to say £165,000, £170,000.
We are going through a very busy spell at the moment, and the future looks quite rosy.
Now hopefully this is as close as you'll get to this custom vehicle. That said, I'm sure you can appreciate now the technology investment that goes on to make it. We said that, what price can you put on a life?
$3,500 kilos, 3.5 tonne. This Renault Master will carry more than any other 3.5 tonne vehicle. But what are you going to sacrifice with that? Well, there are problems. Let's go and have a look. Because these vans are so light, the problems you're going to incur are the panels. Now, these doors are very large. The panels are thin, and so are the hinges. You'll suffer with a lot of problems. Now, they will break, and they do rust quite a bit as well. So check that these panels are sound. Now, let's have a look at the back doors, because we've got another problem here. You'll notice these hinges stick proud. Now, the main problem you're going to suffer with those is all the rain and everything comes down the side. These hinges will seize. They do make these back doors very difficult to open. In fact, you'll probably have to take weightlifting lessons to open these doors. But once we've got the doors open, now what do we find inside the vehicle? This is one of the lowest vehicles you can get for loading. It's ideal for putting low and heavy equipment in. Very large capacity, plenty of space. It's just what you need for getting all your heavy stuff in. Now, let's go and have a look inside and see what we got there, shall we? Nice roomy cabin on this one. Plenty of place to put your luggage, all your bits and pieces, maps, everything right by the driver. Everything is nicely laid out in here. Also for driver's protection, they've put a nice cage in behind the driver. Stop all the parcels coming through and clouting the driver on their head. Plenty of room, plenty of space, nicely equipped. Let's go and have a look under the bonnet now, see what drives it. This has a 2.5 litre engine in this. Now the engines on these are quite good. You shouldn't suffer with too many problems at all with these, but the only problems you will suffer with are drive shafts. Now you can't see that from the top or from the side. You need to get underneath, so you need to get a mechanic to check them. Check the gaiters, the boots and the drive shafts themselves. Make sure there's no oil leaks. Take it for a good road test, that's one thing you can do. See if there's any noise, especially on corners. Check it because they can be expensive. Not a bad vehicle actually for what it is. What do you think? 1998 on an S-plate, you'll pay £7,000 for a vehicle like that. But remember, if you're buying from a dealer or a good commercial outlet, that vehicle will have a history with it, be HPI checked, and you'll get a warranty. You will buy a van like that cheaper, privately, but will you have all the history with it? Will you know that it's your vehicle? Certainly worth remembering.
Join us next week when we'll be in Orlando in the sunny USA for the 2002 International Work Truck Show. See you then.